God, so catchy. I love that beat every time. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this month's edition of Jabra Presents Technically Speaking. I am your host, Eric Taylor. That is a dressy photo of me. You won't see that very often, except today I put on the collar because it's a special day. We are joined by our Modus team, who we will introduce here shortly. Few housekeeping items. If you've joined us before, we've been through this, but we're remiss if we don't go through it one more time to just say, hey, this is the unwebinar. If you have any questions, comments, smart remarks, concerns, whatever, feel free to step up to the mic, right? Come off mute. We are here to talk with you, not at you. So please make this a conversation. We have, how many we got? We got 43 people. We got more trickling in. So if we sit here and we have a conversation amongst ourselves, I'm going to be real disappointed. So I'm counting on you guys to weigh in, come off mute, and join us. So you got questions? We got answers. You'll notice that we are 58.92% sarcasm free. That's a scientific number. I actually ran the numbers while creating this presentation. So that's actually down from our last session. We were in the 60%, but there was a lot of sarcasm last time. So we're down below 60%. We'll keep working on that. Hopefully we'll be in the 40% next time, thanks to a lot more sarcasm throughout this session. And we'd love to hear how we did. So there's a QR code there. If you want to use your mobile device, whatever it takes to activate that QR code, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear it. Making this session, give us feedback on this session, maybe some recommendations for what you'd like to hear from Jabra in the future. Please use that QR code. I'll hover here for just a sec for those of you trying to get your camera activated on your mobile device, or we can pop that in chat later. All right. So we got all the boring stuff out of the way. What are we going to be talking about today? Today, we're going to be talking about Jabra and Modus, the partnership that we have with them. It's functional and it's fun. So if you have joined us previously, we did a Modus session during that time. If you were here, you actually got to see Eric with his daughter's Meta Quest headset on, and I actually ran into the wall. That got a really good laugh. I was super embarrassed. We're not going to do that today because the Modus team is bringing their new version 2.0 beta. It is beta. So kudos to the Modus team for having the courage and the skill to do a live beta presentation of their software. Ken will go into it a little bit more, but this is pretty sweet. I've seen it. I've used it here personally. It's almost like if you're good at the first-person video games, you can now do that in a professional capacity. So it'd be a really good business justification for a gaming PC if you're doing some consultative work with Modus. Just throwing that out there. So yes, they will be using Modus 2.0 beta today, which does not require a VR headset anymore. So you look a little less silly using it, but maybe a little different in the experience. So to highlight our guest speakers, we are joined by Ken and Patrick. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, we'll have Patrick go, and then we've also brought in Riley from our team. I'd like to introduce him as well. But Patrick, can you say hello first?
Hello first.
Well done. There goes the sarcasm score.
Yeah. How are we doing on sarcasm already? My name is Patrick Higaki. I handle sales and partnerships here at Modus. I am, in fact, wearing a VR headset, and that is a dressy photo of me, enhanced a little bit with some AI. So thanks for joining, and I'll hand it over to Ken.
No, Riley. We'll
Riley. I'll hand it over to Riley.
Perfect. All right. My name is Riley Peart. I handle all of the client interactions over here at Modus. I'll be in the chat monitoring for questions, and I'll also be dipping in and out of the QA section. Answer any questions that you've got in line.
I'm Ken. I'm one of the founders of Modus. I'll be doing a lot of the driving, as will Patrick. Really just want to emphasize what Eric mentioned about having a discussion. I've only been on these calls when Modus is a part of it, but really the whole thesis of Modus is to encourage real-time discussion and collaboration. So as we're doing stuff, it is so much more fun if we have people interrupting and asking weird questions and trying to throw a wrench into the plan. So it just makes our product shine, makes for a lot more interesting time.
Yeah, and I would say that we even have a blank room that we intentionally put in this demonstration. So if you would like to see, if you want to make these guys sweat in real time and have them build out a room right in front of your eyes, there will be an opportunity to do that. So be prepared if there's some stuff as we're going through the demonstration and whatnot. If you want to see it, we do have some blank spaces there at the end. Okay. All right. So just real quick, what are we going to do today? We're just going to run through the agenda real fast so you know what to expect. We've been through the intro. We're going to just kind of do a recap of the last sessions, particularly what we saw in the last Modus session and why today is different. I'm going to give you talk through some of the similarities and differences between the Panacast 50 VBS and the Panacast 40 VBS, which you see over my left shoulder. We're actually going to kind of run through a quick live demo so you can see it actually happen in my space, and that will sort of contextualize as we're going through the virtual demo what it might look like in real life, and as juxtaposed to the virtual spaces as well. And an overview of Modus throughout, right? You're really going to see how the power of Modus, how it works, and then merging the Panacast capabilities into the Modus environment. We're going to see it, the spaces where we play in a Jabra, from a Jabra perspective. We're going to start in the meeting in a medium room with our Panacast 50 VBS, sort of a review of that last session. Then we're going to go to some new spaces that the Modus team have put together, which include a huddle space, some carts, and some of those booth spaces, which are becoming so prominent in a lot of customer spaces, some of these AV-enabled collaboration spaces. During that time, we'll talk about some of the mounting options. We're going to move over to a small room for that. Some of the touch controller mounting options in another small space. Throughout this time, we're going to have Q&A, but we will absolutely have a dedicated Q&A at the end of it where we're going to make everybody uncomfortable by saying, are there any questions? And we're going to wait a solid minute while I stare into the camera until somebody speaks. So there will be a dedicated Q&A at the end, and hopefully we'll get to do a real-time build out in that blank space. All right. Any questions, comments, or smart remarks before we get started, before we dive into Eric's live demo and maybe a few slides? Okay. All right. So again, the Jabra Panacast and Speak family, what you see here. So again, we started off with the Panacast 50, the USB variant that can be added to any Windows-based system, Microsoft Teams rooms or Zoom rooms, or if you want to do a BYOD, let's say a laptop, we have the Panacast 50 USB, which is what we like to call the OG, the original gangsta, as my son would say. We then evolved into the Android space where we built that compute into the Panacast 50 USB and have the Panacast 50 video bar system, or VBS. And that has the compute built into the bar, the Android-based compute. In our past sessions, we talked about the security of this device, how it's built on Microsoft's version of Android, MDEP, Android 13, and the IP-based touch controller, which I'll be using here in real time to kind of walk through the demo on the Panacast 40 VBS, which was the little brother, the subsequent follow-on to the Panacast 50 VBS. We also have the Panacast 20, which you're seeing me on right now, which I love because I can kind of move around and it auto follows me, it tracks me. Love that little guy. And our Speak 2 devices. I am actually using a Speak 2 75 right now. So you're hearing me on this guy. And I would just like to highlight that there are linking capabilities. So if I were to slide all the way back here, I'm about 15, 16 feet from my desk right now. But you're hearing me on the Speak 2 75 here in the back of my office because you can actually link those two. Oh, and now Lando's getting the stage, so I got to move back up. So Panacast 20, the Speak family of devices, the 45, the 55, and the 75 there. 75 has the linking technology and the light coaching ring. To give you a nice holistic portfolio for individual desktop collaboration and your huddle, small, and your medium rooms, which we'll talk about today. Okie doke. All right, so Panacast VBS similarities. This is where we get into, sorry, a little bit of the nerd talk, but this is technically speaking, so we got to talk a little technical as part of this. So how is the Panacast 50 and the Panacast 40 VBS? How are they similar? First of all, they both have the same operating system. Like I said, we have built on top of Microsoft's device ecosystem platform, or MDEP, that Android 13 foundation. That you find that on both the Panicast 40 and the 50 VBS. They are both certified for Teams rooms and Zoom rooms. So when you boot these guys up, we covered this in a previous session where my buddy Damon was talking about the box, the unboxing. If anybody missed that, go back and check the recording. This is the famous part about the Panicast 40 VBS is the box. But after you've boxed it up, or after you've connected it out of the box, you get the option to choose between a Teams room, a Zoom room, or a BYOD only mode if you just want to have this working as a peripheral for your, say, your laptop in these rooms, you can do that. All of them have that 180-degree field of view. So if we switch over here to my Panicast 40 VBS, you see everything in the room, right? 180 degrees, which can be adjusted through some of the different video modes, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Those experiences we'll be referring to are Intelligent Zoom, Dynamic Composition, Virtual Director, and Intelligent Meeting Space. And we'll talk about what each one of those is. The audio, they have beamforming microphones. Uniquely enough, we also have an aux out capability on both the Panicast 40 and 50 VBS, where if you have the need for assisted listening devices and that work through a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary out port. So you get simultaneous audio out of the speakers, and if someone has an assisted listening device in the room, they can actually plug that into the bar and get simultaneous audio through their assisted listening device. So that's pretty cool from that perspective. Full duplex audio, noise suppression on the device, because again, that Android operating system isn't just there to run the Teams room, the Zoom room, or the BYOD experience, but you can start to do so many things under the covers thanks to that Android-based compute. Connectivity, you can do LAN or Wi-Fi on both of the devices. I would highlight that if you're doing with a touch controller, it does require at least an Ethernet cable to do the power delivery to this, but you don't necessarily have to have it connected to the LAN via that Ethernet cable. You can connect the touch controller to Wi-Fi as well. More recent releases from a firmware perspective, we have introduced the ability to do different proxy settings, 802.1x connectivity, IP4 and IPv6 as well for security measurements or measures. Mounting options, we're going to talk a little bit more about these, but you can do a table stand, VESA mount, or a wall mount for these devices. And I'll just kind of skip ahead and just show you those before we get to them in the Modus environment. Wall mount, VESA mount, mount on the table stand, and uniquely enough, we also have, by popular demand for many customers, a tripod mount. So many folks wanted to put this on a tripod in meeting rooms, we built that into the product as well. And management, you can do this through a number of ways. Our Jabra Plus cloud management platform, the web UI, just going directly to the IP address of the device and managing it through there. Obviously, you can walk up to the touch controller, do management from there. Teams Admin Center and Zoom Device Manager as certified devices also have some capabilities. All right, but that's what they have in common. We're going to spend a lot of time today just kind of walking through these different capacities in Modus VR. So it makes sense to talk about what's different between these devices. So let's have a look at that. First and foremost, what you're going to notice is that the Panicast 40 is value engineered. That is a fancy way of saying that it is a lower cost than the Panicast 50 VBS. That's by virtue of a number of different design decisions that we're going to talk about today. Those are MSRPs. I am a pre-sales person. I am not a salesperson. I cannot talk about all the deals I can get you, but reach out to your representative and they can probably do better than MSRP. Like buying a car. They're going to tell you what the MSRP is on the commercial, but the dealer could probably do a little bit better, right? Room size. Room size is very important. That's what we're going to highlight today with the Modus team. The Panicast 40 is designed for a quote-unquote small room. Think, since we're going to talk freedom units today, we're looking at about 15 feet by 15 feet. But for those of you who use the base 10 metric system, it's about 4.5 meters by 4.5 meters, or roughly 4 to 8 people. Now, as we show some of the speaker and some of the video and the audio capabilities today within the Modus platform. It's important to note that your mileage may vary. Whenever you're talking about room sizes, a lot of stuff comes into play, such as lighting, where people are seated or situated as far as where they are from the device, etc. The acoustics in the room. So again, this is a your mileage may vary type of scenario, but by and large for the Panacast 40 VBS, think 15 by 15. The P50 VBS has a little bit more horsepower, right? So it's going to accommodate rooms up to 20 feet by 20 feet or 6 meters by 6 meters. Now, the reason for that is if we start to dive into the video, the Panacast 40 VBS only has two 8-megapixel cameras to give you a 4x digital zoom, which you'll see here when I do a live demo. Now, when we do the cropping and the adjustment of the image to give you the different framing modes, we have to do that on a slightly smaller and lower resolution image palette, if you will. So that's going to affect the vertical field of view when we do some of the cropping. So you're going to get a slightly smaller 50-degree vertical field of view on the Panacast 40 VBS. Whereas on the Panacast 50 VBS, we've got the traditional, we talked about it a number of times, the three different cameras that are 13 megapixels. So here you go. This is like the Panacast 50 VBS. If I put my hand up here, this is not how you're supposed to use these guys, but it shows you can actually see the three different cameras that are being stitched together in real time. Now, those seams will disappear the further you get away from the device, but we're using the similar technology just with lower resolution sensors and only two of them on the Panacast 40 VBS. Now, the Panacast 50 VBS has about 4 additional degrees for your vertical field of view by virtue of that larger resolution image that we have to work with. Audio, 6 microphones on the 40, 8 microphones on the 50. Again, a little more audio capability. A single speaker on the Panacast 40 VBS versus 4 speakers on the Panacast 50 VBS. Now, if I'm going to, I'll switch over to just kind of a full field of view so we don't get a bunch of zooming going on. This is the Panacast 40 VBS. We're going to talk a little bit about the covers. I think now is a good time to just kind of highlight that this device has swappable covers. So this is the fabric cover that comes standard with it. There's also a clean cover, which the Modus team has integrated into their designs. But I just wanted to show you that the 6 microphones are on top of this device, which is a design consideration when we talk about mounting, when we get into the Modus demo. Single speaker here. Now, we have redesigned the chassis of this. You'll notice that when I hold this guy like a bazooka, you'll notice that it has more of an oval design versus the traditional round design of the Panacast 50 VBS. That's what we did a lot of work on the acoustic chamber of this to get more, the technical term would be oomph out of the speaker than what we traditionally got out of the 4 speakers of the Panacast 50 and Panacast 50 VBS. While we're here, I'll just pop this cover back on and just highlight the back of this. There's the mount there, but there is a cable tray here. Everything connects in. We'll talk about the connections in just a sec, but you have a nice little cubby here. As you can see, I'm putting my fingers back in this cubby so you can gently manage your cables in here and bring them in at a comfortable angle into the ports. So you do, as far as the ports go, again, the Panacast 40, in so much as it's designed for small and huddle rooms, only has a single HDMI out for up to a 4K display. The Panacast 50 VBS has a dual HDMI out for dual 4K displays. So again, a design consideration for the type of room that the Panacast 40 VBS will be found in versus the 50. Slightly different capabilities on the telemetry side as far as like data collection goes from the room, the environment. A lot of folks are interested in people count. People count is available on both the 40 and the 50, so you can get that information from the UC platform of your choice. If you want more information from the device, such as environmental information, like so if you're a Zoom user and you can go in and see proximity sensing, temperature, humidity, CO2, TVOCs, all those things that tell you about how hot the room is or how hard it is to breathe in the room. I don't even want to talk about my office and what Zoom says about it. The Panacast 50 VBS can pick that information up. The Panacast 40 VBS will only give you people counting information. All right, and Zoom multi-stream, for those of you who use Zoom rooms and do multi-stream, you can only do 3 speakers plus the room. We'll demonstrate that here in just a second, whereas the Panacast 50, a little more horsepower, can do 5 speakers plus the room. And the mounting options are all the same except for the Panacast 40 VBS has this little foot, this wall mount. You can see the threaded tripod mount there. So it has the tripod mount is the difference there when we get to mounting. All right. I said a lot of stuff. Any questions? Do we have anything in the chat that I need to address before we kick over to the Modus team and start to do some exciting stuff? Oh, Colin, good question. Can we use AI to highlight people that are falling asleep? I'm just going to go ahead and say that that's a feature request that I will happily pass to the R&D team, because shaming and blaming is good for collaboration. All right, cool. Ken, I'm going to pass sharing over to you so you can show the Modus environment, and we will talk through the different spaces and how the Panicast devices look and work in those. Great. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I lied. We're gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna do the demo real quick. Sorry, everybody. I'm bad at this. This is not my day job. All right. So I'm gonna stop highlighting you for a sec here, Ken, and just show for reference. What you're seeing here is my office. Right. This is roughly 20 feet long by about 10 feet deep. I've got the Panicast 40 along with the Panicast 50s over here on the long wall of my office. I've got a Microsoft Teams room and a Zoom room set up for the purposes of this demonstration so we can show the multi-stream capabilities of the Zoom room. I'm going to just use the Zoom room just to switch between the different camera modes to show you what these look like. So I'm going to jump over here to sharing. The video that you see now is from the Panicast 40 VBS. If I'm going to, again, do a bad job or a bad sales job of this, I'm going to put my hand right here in front of the Panicast 40, like literally almost covering the screen. So you see it is no longer the 3 lenses that we were talking about previously. We're actually doing 2 lenses. So you can see, since my hand is literally an inch away from it, you can find the seam there. Now it's interesting to talk about that, because when you're in a small space or a huddle space, you're probably going to have people that are pretty close to the camera. Now I'm going to sit dead center between the 2 lenses, right? So I'm about 3 or 4 feet away from this, but the seam is difficult to find, right? And we're doing some interesting things with light balancing. It's super bright on that side because the window is there, a little darker over there because of the hallway, but we're doing a pretty decent job of balancing the light between those 2 sensors. If I were to sit here and very carefully try and find that seam, you can see a little bit jumping. I'm just being honest, right? People are going to say, well, hey, how prominent is the seam? You can absolutely chase it. You can find it if you want. You can get your face right up to it. But I just want to highlight that we're making some very intelligent decisions with this stitching technology by which my entire person, despite me sitting dead center of this camera and trying to find the seam, that it's keeping me, my person, the moving pixels largely in one field of view, because there's a slightly overlapping field of view here. So I want to just call out real quick, this is what it looks like. This is how we accomplish that 180-degree distortion-free, very realistic field of view with 180 degrees. So what you're seeing now, I'm joined by Mr. Solo Calrissian and Mr. Skywalker. That's Star Wars for those of you who were born maybe after 1990. But we're going to show you how instead of 180 degrees, you can adjust this, which most people typically do. I'm going to switch from manual to auto framing. And what auto framing is going to do is give you a subset of this 180-degree field of view. Going to give us the leftmost person and the rightmost person, that being Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and everything in between. Now, if you've ever used a Panicast 50 VBS, you'll probably think that looks a lot smoother. And we have done a lot to improve the smoothness of the transitions when we start to do the people framing. So let's talk about how that looks if I move over to the speaker focus. So folks will say, well, what about speaker tracking? Does it do speaker tracking? It absolutely does. So here you see me. It's an acoustically challenged space. I'm talking right into a bunch of drywall right now. So it's not sure if it's me or Han. There you go. It's figured me out. But if I move over here and continue to speak, it sees the full 180-degree field of view that we showed before, but it's going to follow me around as the active speaker. Now, unfortunately, none of these folks, they don't talk a lot. They did, it'd be really weird. But if they were to speak, what would happen is it would zoom out. So you see the full context of the room, and then it would show the other, and then it would zoom in on the next speaker and zoom out back to the active speaker, zoom out back to the active speaker. So you get a good context of what the room looks like, what some reactions are before it frames that person. All right. A better mode might be what we call dynamic composition, or what the Zoom environment refers to as multi-focus. So now you kind of get the best of both worlds. What this does is show you on the bottom in a single stream. This is all coming through a single stream to Zoom. It's showing me, Lando, Han, and Luke in our 4 individual squares. You'll notice too, that one of the special things about this that you might not pick up on immediately is it actually organizes them in order of where they're sitting in the room. So it's Han, me, Lando, Luke. It's not jumbled up. But you can also see the full context of everything between us. Now, if I were to move over here a little bit closer to Han, it kind of looks a little weird having 2 Eric speaking. So what it's going to do is it's going to dynamically compose this image. I think it might be having a hard time with the light. It's going to dynamically compose this image to put kind of me and Han in the same square, because it just doesn't make sense to have multiple versions of us. Okay? And if I switch over to multi-stream, what we were talking about previously, where the Panacast 40 will do 3 streams, 3 individual streams plus the room. You can see that here where it's putting, Zoom is putting Luke and Lando in their own stream. So we capture everybody in the space, but with a 4 simultaneous stream. Panacast 50 VBS will do 6 simultaneous streams, 5 active speakers plus the room itself. But this is actually how the Panacast 40 VBS will look and behave, give you an idea of what it looks like in the environment. So when we jump over to the Modus, folks, you got a concept in your head of maybe not only how the room looks, but how the camera feed would look as well, which is really cool about Modus, because they can show you that too, what the view would look like through the camera. All right, Ken, I think I'm done, man. I'm ready. We're ready for some Modus action.
Are you sure? Last time you said it was my turn and then you took it back.
Sorry, that was rude of me.
I'm just kidding. All right, do we want to spotlight me now? Or am I spotlighted?
You were spotlighted. Rock and roll.
Okay. I still see you really large on my screen, but I don't know if that's how it is for everybody else.
I will.
Okay, so for those of you that aren't already familiar with Modus, or Modus 1.0. Modus is all about getting stakeholders a vision of what the project is going to be as quickly as possible. So what you've got right here, for example, is an image from Modus of a relatively simple room with some Jabra products in it. And our goal is really to help get all the stakeholders on the same page quickly, iterate on ideas, explain technical concepts quickly. And renders have always been good at painting a picture, but the biggest problem with renders is that they take too long to generate. And that's where Modus really shines. And so what you're seeing right here is actually a live preview of the Modus environment. And so everything in here is interactive. I can move things around. I can add and remove products. I can reconfigure products as needed, change wall colors, all of those things. You can start from scratch in a project and quickly iterate. So Modus is really meant to be brought into a conversation early. Modus 1 was a VR-only tool. You had to be wearing a VR headset to work with it. Modus 2 is hybrid. You can still work with a VR headset, or you can work just with a mouse and keyboard like I am. Like Modus 1, Modus 2 is also a multi-user environment. This is a less common thing that we see, but it does work. And so Patrick is actually in this session with me, and he'll come around the corner here at some point, hopefully. There he is. There's Patrick. He's in VR. I am not in VR, but we're still working together. He's in a different part of the country than I am. So really, this whole tool is about collaborating on things real time. Now, a quick disclaimer here. Modus 2 is still in beta. This version that we're using right now just is hot off the presses as of about 45 minutes ago. So there's a really good chance we'll crash and things like that, and that's fine. One last thing before we get started, and then I'll turn it back over to Eric to kind of do some backdrop here. While Modus 2 is in beta, which it will be through the end of the year and a little bit into next year, it's free to use. So earlier we pasted a chat where if you'd like to sign up and take it for a spin, please do. There's no strings attached. All we want is for people to take it for a spin, make money with it, find success with it, get your clients or other stakeholders on board with your different project ideas. And hopefully as we go about the rest of the time today, we can give you a little idea of how you might use Modus in a project. Now, today I'm going to have Patrick do most of the interactivity, and I'm just going to operate as cameraman. But in most cases, it's just one person flying solo, and they're often using Modus to present to a client or their stakeholders live. And it's a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys will have fun with it today too. And once again, please ask questions. We've got Riley from our team fielding questions in chat. He's going to jump in and just interrupt us. Like if somebody says, hey, could you maybe get some media playing and resize a screen? We can do that live. So it's a lot of fun. Okay, Eric, back to you. What should we cover here while we're looking at all this?
Yeah, so we've seen this before, right? This is the Panicast 50, I believe. You got that, the Panicast 50 there at the bottom. Again, highlighting that the Panicast 50 VBS is perfect for this type of room. It's a little bit larger. How big is this room, Ken? Can Modus tell us how big a room is to give us an idea? It can.
Yeah, so it's 25 feet wide. Is it 20? Yeah, 25 feet wide by 20 feet deep.
Oh, that's slick. Perfect. So as we talked about previously, a medium type of room, about 20 feet by 20 feet. But that's okay, because look where the people are situated in this space. They don't have their backs pinned against the wall. If we spin around, what does that wall look like? That is they got a glass wall behind them. So this is one of the things that I always like to talk about with the Panicast series of devices, the 180-degree field of view and the framing mechanisms. So the nice thing about 180-degree field of view is you see everything. The bad thing about 180-degree field of view is you see everything. So one of the features that we didn't talk about during my demo was that intelligent meeting space. So if you have people who are walking by that glass, they're going to stop, they're going to have a chat, or you've got that weird guy in the office who's going to drink his coffee and sit there and stare into your meeting, you can set up the intelligent meeting space for, I think, would you say 20 feet in that particular room. So it's going to create a virtual perimeter on that space. So there's the field of view from the Panicast 50 VBS there. So it's seeing the entire room, but maybe you don't want to frame people who are off against the wall or something like that. You can set up that virtual perimeter so that, there you go. There's that weirdo that's just going to stand out there and watch your meeting. So the camera would no longer frame anyone outside of the glass walls, or in instances such as we're going to talk about in a sec, glass walls that are off to the side, or those horrible spaces where facilities has given you glass all the way around. You can actually set that intelligent meeting space up to accommodate that. Yeah, so will Modus also kind of show us the audio capabilities of the room? So we saw the actual video, that 180-degree field of view with, in this case, the 54-degree vertical field of view. There you go. So that shows you what the audio capabilities. We've worked with the Modus team to kind of create this 20 by 20 bubble, if you will, of audio. So even somebody sitting on that bench in the back of the room would be good. So the power of Modus allows you to put the Panicast 50 VBS in a mocked up room like you see here and say, hey, will this work for me? What's it going to look like? What are the potential audio implications here? This will tell you live. So can we see, so we got everybody in this ideal signature type of room. Can Modus show us like what those folks on the far end would see?
Absolutely.
Cool. Sweet.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in here and I'll switch over to this full screen camera view. So right now we're showing basically what is this device capable of picking up. Now, of course, you already demonstrated being able to zoom in and do a nice composition of everything. This is a great quick gut check of, hey, is there anybody that's never going to be able to be picked up at all? And this gives us a good shot of that. What I also really love about this particular room is you can see how that table looks perfectly straight. Like we have zero distortion here. Yet when we hop out of the camera view, you can see, well, no, that's quite a round table there, which is such a great combination of these ARC tables for the signature teams rooms and the Panicast 50.
And that's a great, I guess you would say, a placeholder for what we'll talk about in some of the next rooms is the mounting of the device. So it's a perfect 180-degree field of view. That table is straight, and that's because we've got the Panicast 50 mounted basically at head torso height for those individuals. They're centered pretty squarely in the middle of that 180-degree arc. So we'll talk about here in a little bit some of the considerations in mounting the Panicast 50 VBS and the 40 VBS when it comes to that arc. But in this particular case, perfect. There are few cameras that will accommodate this better than the Panicast 50 VBS. All right. Any questions on this medium type of space in the signature room configuration? Doesn't have to be a signature room. You could have a long bullet table or a traditional conference room table as well. Would work just fine. All right. Let's head down the hall and look at some of these more modern spaces. I think we've probably all started seeing some of these open landscapes, some of these booth type spaces. So if you joined us at ISE or InfoComm, you might have seen some of these in actual person. So let's start off in the corner over there in these little these huddle type spaces where it's a little uncomfortable for me because I'm just kind of I'm a little agoraphobic like that. But for a lot of these spaces where you don't have a lot of real estate, you've got 4 people that are sitting in this sort of trains, this little train room, for those of us who've been on trains this century, to give you an idea, like these people sitting here, the Panicast 40 VBS in this case, you don't need the audio capabilities, you don't need the big video capabilities of the Panicast 50 VBS. You probably don't want to spend that much money on a space like this as well. So you've got the Panicast 40 that fits perfectly in this space. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit lower on the video and the audio capabilities, but you see there, it's going to see everybody in this tiny little space. Even those people there on the far left and the far right, who literally their shoulders are probably pressed up against the same plane as that display. They're still going to be seen, and obviously they're still going to be heard in that space as well. And thanks to the noise reduction capabilities of the Panicast 40 VBS and 50, it's going to filter out in conjunction with Microsoft Teams and Zoom's capabilities, it's going to filter out a lot of the stuff out there in the room in this open landscape.
Yeah. And Patrick, we had a question about how these rooms are built. Would you mind just tossing in just a few random objects really quick? We're not going to spend time building a room. It's actually kind of fun to watch, but not the purpose of the webinar today. But basically the workflow for Modus is pretty quick and easy to learn. We just have a large library of objects, everything from technical products to furniture to architectural elements. And the operator just drags and drops them into the project and configures them. And you can get up and running. Like a room like that first one we started in is probably 10 to 15 minutes for a medium confidence level user. Our whole tool is designed to be quick and easy because we want it to be fast enough to be done live.
Like I said, I've used it. It is that easy. If you can play a video game, you can play Modus.
Oh yeah, and if you can't play,
I shouldn't use the word play. That sounds unprofessional, but it sure feels like.
Okay. But it is pretty easy to use. Yeah, it takes very little time, and we've got lots of tutorials and all that to get people up and running as well.
Very cool. So this space that you're building, Patrick, let's say we rolled a table in here, we rolled these chairs in here, we're going to have this impromptu meeting. Let's roll that cart over, right? Let's say, hey, we need to make this a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting. Let's bring the cart in. Let's have this ad hoc type of space. We've got a display mounted on a cart. We've got the Panicast 40, probably with its Visa mount mounted onto this cart. We've got the touch controller there, free floating. You can, we'll talk about the mounting options in here in just a sec. But you can bring that touch controller out to the table and you can start your Teams room, your Zoom room meeting, or in a BYOD scenario, you could do that as well. But let's look at the field of view on the camera and just kind of get an idea what that might look like. And again, this is the ideal space for something like intelligent meeting space where you don't want to necessarily catch all the people who might be sitting off to the side in these booths or coming in there for coffee, whatever it may be. You can set up a virtual perimeter and like blank out the people who are sitting back there on the chair, on those sofas or something like that. You could absolutely configure it in this manner. This gives you an idea of what that looks like with a cart. Cool. And now let's check out the booths, which absolutely are something that are becoming increasingly popular. Just some little some work booths where people can, phone booths is what people call them. Again, if you've ever used a phone booth in this century, but the Panacast 40 is ideal for these scenarios as well, to put below a display, above if you so desire, to just give you the AV capabilities in these rooms at a lower price point, still that 180-degree field of view with the audio quality from that device as well. Again, at a much lower price point, much easier to scale these into smaller spaces like those you see here. Any questions on these type of spaces? Is this something you all are seeing, or is something that's becoming popular in your world? Love to know. Okay.
And I'm glad somebody asked a question about building out a room. Just so you guys know, we didn't rehearse having Patrick toss in a table and chairs and put everything in a cart and move it around. That was just something we did on the fly, which is a great little side pitch for the power and flexibility of Modus, right? If you're trying to brainstorm solutions to challenging rooms, and really open floor plan rooms can be pretty challenging to think through. This is a great environment to do that. And you can get all the stakeholders on the same page in seconds, because you're not at the mercy of what they're imagining.
And for those of you who don't, who haven't figured this out yet, that's actually Patrick. So like the goggles that you see there, the little handsets, you wave to us, Patrick, say, hey, yeah, that's the ability to see your fellow person in Modus in real time. So you're working in a true virtual environment. All right. Ken, take us down to the small rooms. Let's look at a Panacast 40 VBS in a more traditional environment, where we're starting to see a lot of customers moving away from these big board rooms, or even these big medium rooms that accommodate 6 to 8 people. You know, a lot of folks aren't in the office anymore, right? They're so facilities and AV shops are really starting to look at reducing the footprint or the size of the rooms so they can have more of them, which is where the Panacast 40 VBS is perfectly ideal. What's the size of this room if we're kind of gauging? Modus can tell us.
It's about exactly 15 by 10.
15 by 10, perfect. We talked about Panacast 40 accommodating up to ideally a 15 by 15. So this is the sweet spot, right? We also have the windows. Hopefully nobody's going to be on the right side of that, because they're going to be in a dangerous situation, because there's no floor over there. But for the people, again, who are walking by in the hall, that 180-degree field of view might pick them up. So this would be the ideal scenario where you want to establish that intelligent meeting space to block off that glass, so you no longer have to put let's say a film over the glass or paint the glass or anything like that to trick the camera into not framing. The camera will do that work for you, so you can maintain that elegant space. So the Panacast 40 looks like we got it on a table stand there. So you could literally, if you so desired, you could put that Panacast 40 on the table. You could move it right up in front of folks. You could get their mouths close to the microphones, their ears close to the speaker, and the camera's close to their face if you so desired. Or if you just didn't want to do a permanent wall mount type of scenario, we do have the universal table mount, which fits both the Panacast 40 VBS and the Panacast 50 VBS. So that is absolutely a deployment scenario. Exactly what you see there is like a table setup. And if we zoom in on the Panacast 40 here, you'll notice that it was tilting down. So this is by design, and this is great for not only adjusting the camera if you want to tilt it down and see people, but imagine this is mounted on the wall and you want to come in and someone is like, oh, you have to do some service on this device. You could tilt it all the way down. Now that does have the cable cover, which secures in place with a set screw so people can't get to your cables and mess with them. So not like users ever come in and unplug anything for their own purposes. But there you can see exactly like on a wall mount as well. It's easy to access those cables by bending them, by just kind of grabbing the Panacast 40 and leaning it down. Hey, Rick. Oh, we got a hand raise. Go ahead. Rick, you're muted if you're... Rick or Joey, go ahead. Whoever, speak up.
I've enabled Rick's mic, so he just needs to unmute himself, as well as Joe. I have enabled your microphone as well.
Go ahead, Rick.
I think Joe's ready. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Rick hit by mistake. It's all you, Joey.
Yeah, thanks. No worries. How do you get a Revit model into Modus so that you can start thinking about doing things with it?
Great question. Currently we don't have Revit import. We're actually working on that, but instead we've focused on more of a universal approach of just being able to build rooms really, really quickly. We do have some tools to help aid with that. They're a little outside the scope of what we want to cover in the webinar today, but Riley will send you a good email and we can follow up with you afterwards. But really, I mean, even if you're starting with a simple room, I mean, it's
Yeah, you just throw up the walls, put a door in, windows, storefront.
Yeah, it takes so little time. But yeah, it's a good question, and we'll actually have a new user webinar in October that if you're curious, happy to send you that link as well.
No, I guess it's just a workflow thing. Like, hey, you're working on a room, you create 4 walls, put a door, some lights, and then you can start adding your Jabra stuff to the room.
That's exactly it. And we've got these empty rooms down here where time permitting, we might spend some time doing that. But you've seen how quickly we can bring in objects. That also applies for architecture as well. So you just slap stuff up, resize it, and you're off to the races in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, good. Got it. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for asking a question.
I don't want to jinx this, Ken, but it's been awful stable, man.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
So I was just going to say, you can lean the Panacast 40 VBS, lean it up a little bit, lean it all the way down to service it. I would note that for those of us in the U.S., there is the matter of ADA compliance. In an upright position, the Panacast 40 VBS with its wall mount is ADA compliant as far as a distance. Doesn't particularly pertain in this case where you've got the credenza that's blocking, maybe hitting that Panacast 40 VBS. But if we were to remove the credenza, or if the credenza were to be, a very small type of design, that would be a consideration for when that Panacast 40 VBS leans down maybe too much. To prevent that, or to make sure that we remain compliant, we do have an ADA clip, which is an accessory for the Panacast 40 VBS. I'll pop an image in chat, but basically it's a little clip that attaches itself to the threaded tripod mount and then clips onto the back of the P40 VBS to keep it locked in place to remain ADA compliant. But there you go. Nice, clean installation with the wall mount. There's also a Visa mount option. So if you wanted to come off of the brackets on the back of the display, you could do that. But a very nice, elegant, it's not like a 20-pound bar that's huge or intrusive. It's very clean. And the Panacast 50 and 40 VBS both have those same mounting options. The touch controller you can see here is free floating on the table for a traditional room type of style. There is a table mount grommet as well. So if you don't want folks grabbing your touch controller and moving it and pulling on your category cable, etc., we do have a swivel table mount for grommet for mounting the display there, or the touch controller there. All right, cool. Any questions on that before we dip over to our last room? All right, Ken, take us next door. This is another increasingly popular deployment scenario that we see with both the Panacast 50 and now with the Panacast 40 VBS of greater interest. So where you have these elevated tables, or even just like a standard, what we affectionately call the guitar pick table, where it's pressed right up against the wall to maximize the space in the room. That's where the 180-degree field of view is really going to shine, because you've got the two gold people there who are on extreme sides. The Panacast 40 or Panacast 50 VBS are both going to pick them up optimally. You'll notice too that this is, there you go. That's another type of table that is perfect for this. Now you'll notice they're standing. So let's look at the Panacast. This is where I want to talk about the caveat there. So let's look from within the Panacast 40 VBS. Let's look at what the far end is going to see. Yeah. So there's a lot of belly buttons in this one, right? It's probably a little awkward field of view, not something you really want to show. There you go. You can tilt that Panacast 40 VBS up and down on its mount. But you'll notice so in this scenario, you'll notice that 180-degree field of view, that curvature, right, starts to show when you put it in, when you diverge from this torso type of field of view. So some folks are like, oh, I'll just slap it on top of the display. So let's look at it now that it's on top of the display. Let's see how that looks. Still looks good. You still see everybody in the room, but folks might say, you know what, look at that door. Look how the door starts to go at an angle. And that's because, again, we are stitching together 3 lenses to give you that curve, that 180-degree field of view, or 2 with the Panacast 40 VBS. Thank you. But it will cause some distortion if you were to lean this thing, if you were to cant this thing way down or way up. So we have some folks who get this and they mount it above the display and they're like, well, it kind of looks a little funny. It will, right? That's just full transparency during our technically speaking webinar. What you can do in these particular cases is maybe raise the display. So Modus team, what if we raise that display a little bit and got it more to eye level, or maybe a little above chest level, and then put the Panacast 40 VBS below it. Yeah, raise that display up just a little bit more, maybe. See, this is the great thing about Modus is we can, before we go into the room and start drilling holes in the wall and tearing up our beautiful drywall, we can actually mock this up in real time. And if I'm not mistaken, can Modus tell us how far there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, so there you go. We can. Once we're kind of happy with this view here, does this feel pretty good, Eric?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Okay. All right. So again, yeah, Patrick, you want to turn on the lens height indicator?
Boom. But see, this is beautiful because you no longer have to do this with sweat equity. You can do it all in a virtual environment and know exactly the heights you need to hang your devices or install your devices before doing it, which is really cool. Boom. We do not support a horizontal mount before anyone asks.
Just want to get the full body shot of somebody.
Yeah, right. So also in these spaces, let's say that table rolls around, or you might want to move it. You don't want that touch controller to be mounted to the table or extended to the table. I think if we swing around, we have where's the touch controller in this room? Oh, there it is. So you can mount this on the wall. And I'm going to grab Spotlight here again so I can just kind of show you the beauty of the touch controller for the Panacast 40 VBS and the new touch controller compatible with the Panacast 50 VBS is that it can be wall mounted. If you pop the wedge off the back of this device, spin it around, click it back in place, will allow you to parallel wall mount, or as you see here, if you just want to rotate it 180 degrees, slap it on the wall to give you that angled mount so you can see the controls, you can absolutely do that too. So that shows some of the flexibility that you can wall mount this device either parallel or at an angle. Get it off the table, get it secured up on the wall. Alrighty. And I'll pop that in the chat too, just so you have an idea of kind of how that works and how these might look. But again, that gives you some ideas what that looks like. Any questions before we go over to formal Q&A and white space where we try and stump the Modus team?
It's certainly possible.
All right. Any custom requests for a room design or anything like that before we go? Got some empty rooms there. Awful lonely. I was kidding. I'm not going to stare silently into the camera for 1 minute. That would be terrible.
Let's look at Patrick in his dark cell.
Not creepy at all, Patrick. Yeah, the lighting effects are really good in 2.0 too.
Yeah, that was another big effort from the team, is getting this much more accurate lighting in there.
That's cool. Really cool. All right. Well, Microsoft Teams says there's 5 minutes left in the meeting. I'm sure the rest of us, or many people on this call, have a whole nother meeting that they need to get to, and you probably like a snack or a bio break. So we're going to call it. Really appreciate everybody joining this month's edition of Technically Speaking, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Modus team. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.